I want all of you all to hear this, please. For transparency's sake, I want the Nelson County community to know that several weeks ago, that there was an article in the Standard stating that the board, were given 3 proposals for this presentation for the merger. And that we okayed the proposal that's being presented. This is not true. And I thought by now that it would be corrected, but it hasn't been. So I want everyone to know that the presentation being presented was not our chosen. We can't do that. That would be against the law. That is nothing that we do. So I just want you all to know that this is that I'm telling you the truth. So thank you very much.
So just to clarify what was very Dennis George wrote an article in the Standard, and basically he had a line in the Standard that said the board had previously discussed. I reached out to Dennis and explained to him the board had not previously discussed. I think he interpreted the board as you, but really it was the team. So that was just to clarify. The article was from a couple weeks ago by Dennis George after the New Haven conversation, and that's what that was about. So, thank you, Ms. Berry, for clarifying that. And Casey, if you are here, I did reach out to Dennis, and he didn't update that, but we can further discuss that later. So, as we start this conversation, for those of you, is there 1, 2, 3. All right, so I want to let you know that this is not a community discussion. In fact, the presentation that we do for the community discussion looks very different. It's much longer. This is going to be just a reflection and a summary. And I would encourage all of you that are sincerely interested in this conversation to take a look at this handout. On the inside, we've summarized what really came to be some conversations for the past 4 weeks. And in here, you'll see some of the conversations that we're having today, but you'll also see some of the conversations that we've had over the past 4 weeks. And I just wanted you to know this is an updated conversation based on the last 4 weeks. So it should be a useful document to talk about the future of this conversation. I think it honors, in many ways, these 3 questions. So, over the last 4 weeks, we started this conversation at Cox's Creek School on the 20th of April. And we started thinking about these 3 questions in our conversations. What's most important to our family? What must be prioritized for our students and their future? And lastly, and I think we did a good job on the first 2 questions, but I think the last question we didn't spend much time on is what roles do we play in creating a powerful future for our community? So this is a timeline.
I think there's another mic in the house.
So, thank you. So this is where we are, April and May. We had 7 community discussions. We also visited every school. In some cases, we went back to schools a couple times because schools that really started this conversation 4 weeks ago, the conversation looked different the last couple weeks. Over the next 2 months, we really see a focus in on priority communication with families that would potentially be a part of any conversation over the next 3 to 5 years. So that really looks at families in our schools, in our elementary schools, that can be impacted by any potential decisions we make. And that's really where we're going to focus our energy over the next couple months. Additionally, best case scenario, I say best case scenario because I think it really continues to be about what we feel like is going to be best for students. In August and September, I feel like we should be ready to reconvene the LPC and reseat the LPC. Additionally, and I say this is really a board decision and a board determination, but I think we can project out that we'll be able to at least begin discussing these opportunities by October and November, potentially sooner, potentially later. So with that, throughout this entire process, I think the key is that we continue to listen, learn, and prioritize. This is the quote that we started our conversations with over the past 4 weeks. And if anything came out of the last 4 weeks was really a belief in our community, a belief that people want great things for kids. In fact, I've built relationships with people in this room over the past 4 weeks that I hadn't seen in 20 years. I built relationships with people and saw people over the course of the last 4 weeks and appreciated this. And I want to share to all of you, which is almost all of you in this room, that attended the community discussions. I want to share my gratitude with you and whatever lens you're looking through, because being a part of these conversations was important to listening and learning. Additionally, I want to share gratitude with our schools. Our schools hosted these sessions. Our teachers, our principals were involved in supporting with these sessions. Not only has this been a truly historic school year, but it's been an historic 4 weeks as we've entered into conversation that could potentially impact the next 10 to 20 years. And our schools have generously entered into that, as well as our cafe team, our transportation team, our facilities team. These teams have entered into a conversation generously, open, and really embracing possibility. Lastly, I want to share gratitude with our board, who really, as you stated, Ms. Berry, entered into a conversation recently, publicly, as I presented to you a vision for what I see to be an optimal model for the future. You spent countless hours over the past month entering into conversation, literally being at these community discussions, talking to community members, talking to people throughout our community. And this is something that is a massive responsibility and something that we are grateful for. I also want to share gratitude with our board team. As I look to the audience, there are so many people in this room who have been in these discussions for the last 4 weeks, night in and night out. You've been there to support the conversation moving forward proactively, and you've been there when it was tough, and you've continued to show up and do it in the best interest of students. When I think about this conversation around Nelson County Pride, I could not be more proud of a group of people than our schools and our board team over the past 4 weeks. So within these community discussions, as you can see up here, they started April 26th. This was kind of the summary point where we would close on these community discussions and then begin a new process over the next few weeks. We really are going to give space for schools to celebrate their students in the school year, and really continue to put our students and families first in that process. But I think as we look at this last 4 weeks, the most important question that stands out as we look to the future is what's best for our children. I think we have a lot of different opinions about what that is, right? We have a lot of different opinions about what is best for our kids. And I think importantly, that is what We Heart NC means to our school system. How can we continue to care for our children? And again, I've used this over and over again. The diversity of our community has continued to show up and share their opinion. Continue to show up and share, in some cases, dissent for this vision. And that is a part of being a community. That's a part of coming together, listening, and learning. And I share this quote here because I think it's it spoke to me over the last few weeks. And I spoke to a business owner in our community, Thomas Nelson, last week, and she said to me, I think we're going to have to agree to disagree. And it was a powerful opportunity for me to remind myself of this, and I also reminded her of this. And the reality is, each of us have lived a different experience, and we have to honor that experience in our conversation. And we cannot disagree with that experience because we're all unique humans that have had that opportunity. So as we look to the future, these three questions will continue to drive us. These are the four priorities that I feel have emerged from our community over the past 4 weeks as we look to think about the future of facility planning, especially in light of a community campus which would have a middle and high school on the same campus. Student safety and mental health, and I encourage you, if you have the piece of the little pamphlet, I encourage you to look at what that means to us. Opportunities for all students, impact on local economies, and truly, I can say this in a lot of different ways, but just logistics, how things work or wouldn't work, and whether that's busing or traffic or just day-to-day things that come to life. These four themes continue to emerge in our listening, learning, prioritizing. I can't stress enough that this is an important starting point for our community members. If you're here tonight and want to think about these issues of student safety and mental health, opportunities for all students, impact on local economies and logistics, I encourage you to spend some time reading through this. I encourage you giving me feedback on this. I encourage you to continue to make this better for us. I also ask that you take some time to understand the four forces. These four forces that we've presented on over the past 4 weeks have been important to defining the rationale for why. So as we move through June, July, and August, you're going to hear us focus in on these conversations with families. You're going to hear us at ncommunitycampus.com through communication with families and small groups to continue to dive into these issues and listen and learn together. And we'll do that through this lens, sincerely, genuinely, with each of you that are part of that conversation, with this question in mind. And I think as we look at our conversations as a part of our meeting tonight, whether it was the tentative budget process, whether it was thinking about the future of staffing, salary schedules, nursing, we've continued to say what is best for our kids, for them to transition out of high school, to continue to be a lifelong learner and a lifelong earner. We have a great opportunity and a great responsibility. Because these kiddos here, when they graduate in about 10 years, just like these students that walked up here from Boston, these kiddos here will be impacted deeply by their experiences and their opportunities, whether they're at New Haven, at Boston, at Bloomfield, or at my Oktaki home, at Thomas Nelson or Nelson County High. These kids have a powerful opportunity ahead of them, and we want to make sure that this reality that we've talked about, this is a conversation that has existed for 50 years. And I put it on the table 4 weeks ago, because I have a sincere interest in this question: what is in the best interest of our kids? We've continued to and will continue to explore further learning partnerships with leaders across the state of Kentucky who have learning environments that have students on a campus that include a 6-12 model. We'll post the videos from these conversations over the past few weeks on ncommunitycampus.com, and that's a starting point. We know that we can learn a lot from these team members. And I'm really closing here. I have just a couple more pieces. We talked about this earlier, and I think that over the past 4 weeks there's been a lot of confusion in some ways. Where did this come from? Where does this idea of school come from? And I want to give our board credit, and I want to give our board team, so our board team here and our Nelson County School team credit, because over the last 3 years we've had almost 60 board meetings in Nelson County Schools. And during that time, the one thing that I know has been consistent has been the most important piece. Is every person on this team, and while we've had some transitions on the board and off the board, this question, what's in the best interest of kids? I've never questioned that at any time, that anyone is doing anything that is not in the best interest of kids. And while the last 4 weeks since April 20th, that may in some cases be called into question, I can assure you that these last 60 meetings have proven to me and so many of our team members that we are fully committed to this purpose. So this is the question I said we didn't embrace. This is the question that we didn't talk about. In fact, I didn't hear this conversation come up, but I want, and this is on the back page, the question is, what role do we play as community members? And I want to encourage you as community members over the coming months and weeks to think about the power of generosity and gratitude, whether that's with our board team, whether that's with teachers, whether that's with community members, our bus drivers, our cafe leaders, or others that you may have just met tonight. Approaching this through the lens of generosity and gratitude, regardless of whether you agree or don't agree, is powerful for our humanity and allows us to be in community together in ways that are not typical in today's world. We as adults have to model what listening and learning looks like in order for our children to understand what listening and learning looks like, even if we don't agree. And lastly, I think this is what brings me back to Nelson County, is we have to continue to embrace possibility for our students. I will tell you, probably one of the most disappointing pieces over the past 4 weeks was a conversation I had with a community member who was explaining to me that public school kids just aren't good enough for a model like this. And they told me that in so many ways. And I think if we don't believe in our children across Nelson County and see them as problems, they will prove us right. If we believe in possibility and continue to embrace possibility, they will prove us right. And we know that our kids are capable of doing great things. So I leave with this quote. I leave with this quote because it comes back to embracing our common humanity. While I can disagree with your opinion, it turns out I could not disagree with your experience. We've all had different experiences in our life. We look through a unique lens. Obviously, I've spent most of my life as an educator, most of my adult life as an educator. While the difference of opinion may remain intact, it should not define what is possible. I share that with you because I think it's the most important piece of this conversation for the Nelson County community as we look towards the future of whatever decision is made or not made over the coming years. So that is my conversation tonight that I enter into. Lastly, this has been an historic year. Truly historic year. I can't stress enough over the next few weeks, if you're in our schools, if you have a son or daughter in our schools, celebrate your teachers, celebrate your principals, celebrate your instructional assistants, celebrate your bus drivers, celebrate your cafeteria leaders. Celebrate them because they have stepped up in the pandemic in ways that are uncommon across our country. And we're going to end, we have the Boston students did the impossible top 10. They're going to celebrate the top 10 things from our 2020-2021 school year. That'll be our ending tonight. Then we have one decision to make about our calendar, and then we have guest comments. And I appreciate you guys for being patient through this conversation. We've obviously got big work going on, and I want us to continue to embrace this idea of possibility within our community.
It's been a year of ups and downs.
And fun times and not so fun times.
One thing it definitely was memorable.
And people came together to care, connect, and create like never before.
So in honor of Coming in at number 10 is the Legacy Softball Team.
This year, OKH, Bloomfield Middle School, Boston, and New Haven joined forces to create the first ever middle school softball team for the district, the Legacy Ladies. With a very successful first season in these books, these ladies have made history in Nelson County.
So, Alex, which softball player holds the water?
Which one?
Pitcher. Number 9 is Amber Irvin, top 3 finalists for Kentucky Special Education Teacher of the Year.
Amber Irvin, Gifting Minds Leader, OKH, was selected as the top 3 finalists in the Kentucky Special Education Teacher of the Year.
You rock, Miss Irvin.
Number 8, teacher legal sites. Throughout our district, over 350 websites were created to increase communication with our families and showcase the impossible experiences come to life across our schools. Each classroom leader created their own classroom site to keep constant communication open between teachers, parents, and students.
Number 7, community tabling nights. We definitely filled the table up this year with over 90% of our Nelson County school leaders united with students' families throughout the community table at night, leading powerful conversations with students led to creating their future and sharing their gifts.
Coming in at number 6, community collabs. Throughout this school year, we have continued to tear down the walls between the classrooms and the community with 6 unique community collab experiences. Over 500 students have requested to participate in these experiences. Their programs included arts, aerospace, agriculture, education, engineering, health science.
Stop, collaborate, and listen.
I'm going to stop you right there and present number 5, the Bluegrass Aerospace Experience. This year, Bluegrass Aerospace Experience built and sold their Carbon Cub plane for $260,000 and watched it take its first flight. Several students also had the opportunity to hit the skies with their very first solo flights.
The sky's the limit with this collab.
Number 4, the Pride Games. This was a huge year for the Pride Games. During the Fall Pride Games, we held our first ever virtual games in the true COVID fashion, highlighting trivia experts and gamers alike with our Mario Kart and Jeopardy competitors.
Winter Pride Games was also nothing to sneeze at, since we got the big dub for our display at the Bardstown Christmas Parade.
And finally, for the Spring Pride Games, we held our very first NC Got Talent, where staff across the district came to showcase their gifts.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba, I love the Pride Games.
Number 3, nursing staff. This past year, NCS had full nursing staff, including 1 nurse in every school. These nurses were true superheroes, organizing over 662 COVID vaccinations and treating patients over the course of almost 20,000 patients encounters just this year.
These nurses are really proving that anything is pulsable. Get it? Like a pulse?
Number 2, celebrating transportation and nutrition services. Our nutrition services and transportation leaders came together during a time of uncertainty and continue to provide for our students and families. During the fall, while all students were learning virtually, we delivered approximately 60,000 meals. And finally, at the number 1 spot, we're returning to school. If one thing tops all the highs to this crazy school year, it's having students back in our buildings. In the month of March, we saw the return of 3,700 students to our schools.
Enough said.
I agree. This has been the Impossible Top 10. Thank you for continuing to care, connect, and create for our students and our community.
Next up is our student and stakeholder engagement and Mr. Kevin.
So, as we start in March at the airport, we want to begin our June boarding night at the Guthrie Opportunity Center. We've obviously had to continue to develop a relationship with the Guthrie Opportunity Center. It's a big enough space too. We can do a number of different things there. We also we move in our June board meeting to the Nelson County Area Technology Center and our July 20th meeting to the Nelson County Early Learning Center. Those are all places that we want to continue to learn from and invest in, hear from our students, our staff. So again, really at this point in time, we're just making a recommendation to change to the Guthrie Opportunity Center on June 3rd.
Well, I certainly like reaching out to the county and come to as many as we know people. So, there's more for this question, I'd like to make a motion.
So we have a motion to change the location of the June night on June 1st, 2021, Guthrie Opportunity Center. And then, so the 15th, is that included in this as well?
We'll just add it, we can add it now, if you like, that's fine too.
So I'll over to board attorney, so, okay, should we go ahead for all three of these upcoming meetings? If it's agreeable to the board that we make the motion for all three of these location changes at this one time?
Yes, it's not supposed to be all meetings.
All right, well then.
So we'll phrase and restate.
Okay, Mr. Richardson made a motion to change all three meetings. Second, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, next up is our guest comments. Our guest comment policy. So, thank you for attending our Madison County School Board meeting. Any person wishing to address the board may do so by following these rules. Individuals representing themselves are limited to 3 minutes. Individuals representing a group are limited to 5 minutes. Please step forward, state your name and address, and if you represent a group, state the name of the group you're representing. So I have a list of those who wish to stand up and speak. And so what we'll do is I'm just going to call your name off, and then come up and talk to us. And so the first on the list is Rebecca McGuire.
Let's get the mic's
I don't know that I need a microphone. I might start singing. Thank you. Rebecca McGuire died, 1476 Masden Road, Boston, Kentucky, 40107. I'm here on behalf of myself. So I only get 3 minutes. Where's my timer? Wait, okay. Superintendent Bradley and board members, thank you for coming to Boston tonight to hear our voices. It makes it easier for everybody to attend a meeting, and I certainly appreciate your effort in coming here and sharing the board process with everybody. A lot of people who have never seen it, so thank you for that. Change is very scary for me. I don't know if it is for everybody else, but change scares me. And I understand progress demands change. So our kids are the most important thing to us, and I believe they are to you all. I have no expectation that I fully understand the intricacies of the plan for school location innovations that are going on. Mr. Bradley had referenced 50 plus meetings. I was in a lot of those meetings. I was involved in the conversation for deeper learning. We might have never used the word wing. We might not have used the exact terminology that's coming around now, but this is what deeper learning is probably going to lead us to. I understand that I don't know everything about this. I don't believe any of you all do either. I think that you're transparent and you're sharing with our community so we can all learn together, and I appreciate that. What I don't appreciate it and I can't condone are some of the personal attacks I have seen on you all. You are public servants, and I appreciate that. For anybody that does not know, there is no way anybody in this room that's an educator does it for the money. You don't. So I appreciate that. The personal attacks I think are irresponsible, just like I think that if in our minds we can't see that we have to expect better of our children. For me to say that I want kids' learning experience to be what mine was is to say that I don't want the district to provide Chromebooks to kids. I don't want nurses in the schools. I don't want cell phones. I don't want the ability for kids to continue to learn during a pandemic. We have to change, and I appreciate your all's bravery in giving options and talking with everyone about change. They talked about that. Let's see. I do want to bring up a point that I don't know that gets brought up a lot, and that is the absolute quality of the central office staff. It is very easy to blame Mr. Bradley and for me to attack him when he says things I don't like, but he has a team, and that team of people, I think, is the best in the state, and I know that there are other people who agree with that. We have a team in our central office that makes other districts jealous. I'm gonna wrap it up. My thing is, I want to thank you all for listening to everybody's voices. Thank you for that. My ask for tonight is that you continue to innovate and grow our district with kids being the primary focus of that innovation. Thank you.
I don't think that mic is on.
She was very popular.
Oh, is it?
She'll be.
Yeah, okay, all right. Next up is Pam Dockery.
Hello, welcome to Bardstown, everybody. My name is Pam Dockery, and I do live in Boston and have for over 40 years. I'm a parent of 3, 2 who have graduated years ago, and my youngest daughter who's a 5th grader here at Boston. My 2 older kids went to Oak Kentucky Home Middle School. I saw the positive impact on them. They met new friends, new teachers, and had new opportunities to grow. My daughter will not have those opportunities staying here. She will continue to be around the same students, the same teachers, and have decreased opportunities than other middle school students in our county. My older children didn't have the option to stay in our community for middle school, and they were not impacted negatively. I hear so many people talk about saving our schools, and I'm so confused by this. Saving our schools is what will happen with this community campus. Students will have opportunities that exceed the middle school capabilities here in Boston. Don't get me wrong, every single leader in Boston is amazing. My children would not be the kids they are today without them. Whew. But the Boston staff here, they can't control the small number or the limited access that is offered at Boston. There are only 5 content middle school teachers here and 122 students, giving them only 4 related arts to choose from. Oak Kentucky Middle School has over 30. The nasty negative noise that has been created on social media makes me question those who are posting the wrong information. We should work together to do what is best for our children. With this merger, students have the option to choose the place of their learning. They can go to the Stephen Foster Amphitheater and have that arts class. They can go to Burnham Forest for agriculture. And of course, there's other places in the community they will be going. This will allow my daughter the choice of how she engages with her learning. Work-based learning isn't forcing our students to mature too quickly, but allowing them exposure to the world that will meet them far too soon. As parents, we know this. This will prepare them. I am thankful for this growth opportunity to help my daughter. I know our leadership of our school system is working hard for our kids, and the best thing we can do is work together with them. I urge you, as board members, to not only listen to the negative noise, but to all we could offer my daughter as well as the other children in our county. They deserve this. Thank you for your time.
Laura Snow.
Good evening, my name is Laura Snow. I reside at 1885 Ashes Creek Road, Bloomfield. I've served on the slide-based committee for Bloomfield Middle School for 2 years. Due to certain issues within the school system, we pulled our children to homeschool them this past year for the 2021 school year. One of them, our children that we fostered and adopted, was declined special education services, even though he met all criteria. So we are now homeschooling. However, we will be re-entering them into the district this coming year. But I'm also here to speak on behalf of some of our teachers who have voiced concerns about not being able to have their voice heard. This comes from a previous teacher. He says, I am writing this letter in hopes that it finds everyone in good spirits. As a former employee and alumni of Nelson County High School, I've been following the unfortunate chaos that has proceeded over the district the last few months. Sad to say this started way before now, but I'm glad to see the community is finally standing up for the kids in the district. This district has now been affected very negatively by the last two superintendents, and it's saddening to say that it started when the board members and the apparent lack of respect given to them from our current and previous superintendent. One forgets to remember the superintendent works for us and we do not work for them. I'm not here to speak in regards to the issues at hand currently within the community. There are other issues that are going on within the school system that our board members need to be made aware of. There are a lot more comments in this letter that I don't feel comfortable reading aloud, so I've provided a copy for each of you and I will give that to you today.
Next up is John Snow.
Thank you. As you might imagine, I also reside at 1885 Ashes Creek Road. There's been a lot of talk about staffing and a lot of talk about change tonight. So I'd like to ask some questions if I can. I might run out of time, but we'll get through it as best we can. To any or all of the board members, do you know what our percentage of teacher turnover is for our district? For this year? Or for the previous 2 years before that one? It's increased every year since 2018. That was as far back as I could find so far. 22.4% in 2018, 24.7% in 2019, 31.4% in 2020. That's a bit concerning, I'll be honest. We have at or close to 10% of emergency certified teachers for our district. That's pretty high. Why? Why are we seeing those kinds of numbers out of a district that, to Mr. Bradley's own words, has such a great community for their staff and for their teachers? I don't understand. I don't understand why we're having such a high turnover rate. Are you aware of how many students that live in our district that don't go to our schools? Almost 800. Now granted, there'll be some that'll go to a Catholic school or a private school to their religious affiliation, perhaps some homeschooling, but almost 800 students? Why? I don't understand that. I don't understand if we're fostering such a community in Nelson County, why these students feel the need to go outside of our district. That's a red flag to me. I'm not on the school board, and to be quite honest, I haven't been as involved as I should be. Lots of us haven't been. But those are some red flags to me. And if they're not to you, then that might be a problem. There seems to be, and I'm not in the school system, so I can't speak directly to it, but we've spoken to several former and current employees, and there seems to be a lack of confidence in the leadership of our school district, in their ability to listen and process information from people that are right there in the schools every day doing those jobs. Why? If we have such a great community in our school systems, why are we having those kinds of issues? I understand you can't listen to every single thing, and not every opinion is going to weigh in as much as another opinion does. But if we're fostering that that kind of community, we shouldn't be having that kind of turnover.
Amanda Beaton.
My name is Amanda Deaton. I reside at 1020 Fairfield Road in Cox's Creek. I have 2 children in the Nelson County School District. And I'm going to reiterate a lot of the concerns that Mr. Stowe had. But I will say that this started for me, this merger consolidation was what got me involved. I have major concerns about that, and I've expressed those to the board, and I won't belabor that. Those concerns are still the same. I've attended community sessions, and I still have the same concerns. I think it'll be devastating to the local economies. I think it will hinder our children's ability to evolve in our small communities. I think overall it's a poor plan. However, in getting involved in this consolidation issue and digging into that, I've educated myself, and I've been fortunate enough to be surrounded by a group of parents and community members who have also educated themselves, and I've been made aware of a whole lot of other issues that definitely need addressing. And just to touch on what Mr. Snow said, the teacher, the staffing issues that we have, it's unacceptable. It really is. I mean, our teachers are leaving our schools in droves, and these are our best and brightest educators, and they're going to our neighboring districts. And if you don't think it affects our kids, it does. It does. It affects their achievement in the classroom, it affects the culture of our district, and it's something that needs to be addressed. So I'm thankful that if nothing else, this discussion got started, and so we can start addressing it. I'm also concerned about kids and what's going on in the classroom. In conversations with Mr. Bradley, it seems that their performance in the classroom is not a priority. In fact, there is no curriculum, and that concerns me. I understand the value of some work-based learning, and it does seem that there's a benefit to that, but to the extent to which this is being pushed on students, I feel like they're making a choice between education or learning, not education with learning. Education and working. It's a choice, work or learn, and I don't like that. I think that we could balance that a whole lot better. I ask you as board members to speak up for our children. This is not acceptable. It isn't. Mr. Bradley's contract comes up soon, and I ask that you do not renew it. I think this problem with staffing is a leadership problem, and I think we can do better. We can do better for our children, we can do better for our community. Thank you.
Sarah Bunch.
I'll be requesting to speak on a group of 69 educators. So if I can have here's some data information I would like to share with you that I will discuss. I live at 3456 Old Bloomfield Road. If you have been to the Foster Heights community discussions, then you've heard me speak upon the importance of database decision-making to improve our schools after reading research from the American Association of School Administrators. Despite my requests for data showing that the community campus is the best model for our students, I've yet to see it. So why is data important? Objective data is data that can be observed or measured. If you can't see an idea, you can see it if you put data to that. So let's look at why does that need to be explained? Because I feel in this whole process there's been a lot of elusive and romantic language applied to this. So, objective data, we've discussed turnover. All of this information can be found at KentuckySchoolReportCard.com. Average years of teacher experience. Nelson County, out of all of our surrounding counties, is the lowest at 9.8 years experience. And this is compared with the state of Kentucky, Bardstown Independent, Washington County, LaRue County, Spencer County, Bullock County, and Hardin County. Number or percentage of inexperienced teachers, that's 0 to 3 years
years' experience. For Nelson County, that percentage is 32.7%. Percentage of emergency or provisional credentials. For Nelson County is 9.7%. The state average is 4.8%. And teacher turnover, as Mr. Snow and Ms. Rogers have touched base on, 31.4%. So, why is this important? For one, you can't promote community if those teachers aren't there. How can we provide these opportunities to our kids if the staff aren't there? We're losing a third of our staff. That's troublesome. So let's move on to subjective data. But first, let me touch base. An example is New Haven, which Mr. Dickerson, I believe, is your district. So Ms. Clark was hired with only a rank 2 certification and given an emergency certification despite having a very qualified applicant that unfortunately withdrew her application. Why was she not actively recruited, especially when she was well known within this district? But our loss, Bardstown City Schools gained. Also, Bardstown Schools has approximately 2,400 students and approximately 1/3 of them live in the Nelson County School District. So let's move on to subjective data, which is information from points of view. Student points of view, parent points of view, which has been discussed in the community discussions. However, teacher point of view, which I feel is very, very important, because during the week, these teachers are with our kids more hours during the day than we are. They know their educational needs. They also see some of the daily struggles that they see, that they experience in school. So we've asked for that, but yet we've not seen that yet, even though these are discussions that have been going on for a month. So even if they weren't provided by the district, you would feel like some teachers would want to reach out. But that's not been the case. And so why is that? Several of us have reached out to teachers to say, hey, what are your thoughts on this? How do you feel this is educationally the best for our students? The general consensus was, I can't speak out about this because I will lose my job. That's shameful. That is shameful. Why should they be held hostage? The superintendent's job should be, what do you need from me to be able to teach our kids? Not, this is how you're going to treat. This is how you're going to teach our kids. And it's the school board's responsibility, ladies and gentlemen, to create the policies and hold our superintendent accountable for that. And that's what I'm asking with the data that I provided for you. We reached out to 69 current and former employees of Nelson County School District. You'll see the data provided. What I looked at the general, right now, if you are a current employee, how satisfied are you with your current workplace environment? 52.17%, very dissatisfied. If you are a former employee, how likely are you to seek employment in this district again at this time? 66.67%, very unlikely. Please take these into consideration because this is obviously a leadership issue that needs to be corrected in this district. Thank you.
David Norman. Heidi Marksberry.
I don't really have the, Heidi Marksberry, 27 years old. I don't really have the benefit of the experience of having been to all these meetings. When I first heard a little bit about what was going on, I didn't understand. I come from a small town in Indiana where my junior high school and my high school were combined. I had the wonderful opportunity to, in the 7th grade, be allowed to go the length of a football field to my high school and take German, advanced literary. We also took different choir classes, had all sorts of opportunities that I wouldn't have had in my tiny little middle school. So I know that change is hard, but two things can be true at once. You know, there's a lot of difficult questions to answer about facilities and how this would be structured, but what I experienced was an environment and a culture of let's take these little ones along with us. We were shepherded all along the way with kids that agreed to a, behavior contract. We agreed to a behavior contract, and it was an amazing experience. We were able to learn things and do things that my little junior high school never would have been able to, give us that opportunity to learn. When I think about my son, who is in 8th grade going into 9th, he had a rough year. He wasn't challenged. He didn't have something that he was passionate about. And I think about the opportunities that were at the high school, like welding and different things that he's interested in as a kid in my shop at home. That would have maybe ignited in him a passion to be a better student, something that he was interested in that would have him, out of trouble, more focused, that sort of thing. I think that we can't discount what opportunity means when they're younger. Get them interested in something, get them hooked, because I know that's what happened with me. The languages that we were able to learn and my passion for history. I took an advanced history class. Those things have stayed with me my entire life, have helped me in the government work that I do today. So I don't see how any sort of additional experience can be a bad thing. And yeah, there are challenges, and I get that. But two things can be true at once. We've got challenges to face. The kids have to come first. And out of difficult decisions and hard decisions, most of the time that's your best outcome. So that's my story. Thank you.
Chris Dudgeon.
Chris Dudgeon, 205 Chaplain Road. I live in Bloomfield. When the discussions first started, of course, I have not been involved in anything school-related in my life other than actually going to school. I never felt the need to. I always kind of left it up to the school board, people we elect, to have our backs and provide an education for our children. I have a 3-year-old now that I have to worry about who is starting preschool BCA. So when we start having these talks about merger and what it's going to look like going forward, I start to think about my little one and how this is going to affect her and the life that we created in Bloomfield. I specifically moved to Bloomfield because that's where my wife's family is at. We live right next door to them. The school is directly across the street from us. So then I got thrown into the merger, and then I got my phone started blowing up. Everybody in the community calling, what are we going to do? What are we going to do if we lose our school? If our school is empty, what are we going to do? It's going to be replaced by this, replaced by that. They're going to put an Isaiah house here. They're going to do this, they're going to do that. So it's been constant, and I appreciate the community discussions. I would have liked to have more interaction with the board members. I appreciate the few that I did get to speak to and that would speak back and actually have a conversation with them. I appreciate that. I look forward to the board meetings. I plan on attending the board meetings going forward and being more active in the talk. I don't support the merger at all. I think there's a way that we can give the Boston students what they would like, because I'm not here to say no to what Boston wants, because it's clear that Boston needs something else. Bloomfield, we have everything that they're wanting to give you, and I feel sorry for the Boston community that you haven't been given that, and the same thing for the New Haven schools. I feel sorry that this district for years has left New Haven in the position that it's been in and not funded you the way it should have, and the same thing for Boston. You haven't been given those opportunities. Those two schools need something done. Bloomfield, we have all those opportunities and more. If you want to know what they are, ask. They will tell you. We have opportunities. So I don't agree with the merger.
I don't agree with closing Bloomfield School. I agree that everybody else needs more options. So I can say that, I agree with that, but I'd like to be more involved in the discussions of what we could do to best serve everybody and not just shut down schools and spend millions of dollars building on new schools and then having to worry about filling them up. Because the kids are leaving. That number of 800 kids that live in the county, that came from Wes Bradley's mouth when he told Jan Johnson a few weeks ago that 780 kids live in the county that don't go to the county school district, they go somewhere else. Teachers that work for us, their kids, a lot of their kids don't even go to the school district. They take their kids somewhere else. Some of them, they even work in central office. Their kid doesn't attend the school district. So, thank you.
Pamela Waldridge.
As you know, my name is Pamela Waldridge. I live outside of Fairfield. You've got my address. So I come today to say we want you, the majority of us in the Bloomfield community, if not all of us, want you to vote no for this merger. It's not a good thing for us. I agree with Chris. If Boston and New Haven need something, then by all means, work on getting them the resources. But we're good. You know, Mr. Bradley said, listen and learning. Listening and learning. He's not. He's not listening and learning. He's not. He's not listening to his teachers, he's not listening to the kids, and he's certainly not listening to the community because we've been very vocal, but nobody's listening to us. You know, this is a huge move. So it would look like that this should have started way earlier in getting the involvement. Shame on Mr. Bradley. And I have a feeling that he didn't do that because he knew that this was going to occur. So the more you could leave it quiet, the better off we were. His presentation that he gave to us, to the community, doesn't justify the merger. He needs to bring more. Why do we want to have 6th graders mingled with high schoolers? Yeah, Boston and New Haven won't. They'll be on a campus of their own, like Barstown. All of his city schools, all those schools, they're city schools. Check them out. They're not county. What works for city may not work for a county school. Doesn't mean that we want more, that we don't want more for our kids. We do. But bring those electives to our kids where they're at the middle school. Why build and put billions or millions or whatever into a new school? When we have a good school, just bring that electives and that advantages to them. Are you ready for the lawsuits that could occur when you start mingling these kids that are 11th, 12th grade and with these high schoolers? The bullying, the mental, sexual, just rape, whatever. I mean, think about that. Are you ready for those lawsuits? Because it's going to happen. It's not now or whatever, but it'll be when. Because it's going to happen. And then lastly, I want to say the inability that Mr. Bradley has done with all of this and the way that he has gone about it by not talking with the children, his teachers, he should go to them first. Teachers, you know, he should be listening to his teachers, but he's not. Okay? So lastly, what I would like to say is that with that, his inability to do that with his children, with the parents, his teachers and community, I would like to ask for his resignation. He's not. Not by the way he's shown us over all of this. He needs to resign. So you all need to do the right thing. Say no to the merger unless you want to do Boston and New Haven because it might benefit them the best. If you don't want to take the resources to those schools, then do the right thing. But he needs to resign.
Amen.
Thank you.
My name is Sandra Cowan. I live on Lick Creek in Boston, or right out of Boston. And I'm a mother, a grandmother, and a great-grandmother, and I have 6 babies from 11 down that are in the Boston School District. I do not want them moved. I don't think 3/4 of the people around Boston don't want this to happen, but nobody's listening. I don't understand why, if you all have children, I don't know why you all won't listen to us. It's ridiculous. The traffic at both schools that you want to add them to is dangerous. There's wrecks there constantly. We need these community schools to stay in the community where they're supposed to be. As much as we pay taxes, are y'all going to do the nursing and all that? Is that going to raise our taxes? You all want to create all of this stuff? That's wonderful. But who's going to pay for it? Our property taxes are the highest around. It's ridiculous. And it's your job to ensure that our children have a safe and mentally safe place that they can go to. And not have to worry about what some guy's going to do to an 11-year-old girl. You're not going to be able to keep your eyes on them every minute. It just doesn't happen. We can't keep our eyes on our own kids every minute. So how are you going to keep 17 and 18-year-old guys away from an 11-year-old girl? It's not going to happen. And I want to reiterate exactly what everybody else has said. If he won't listen, if he won't leave it like it is and give Boston and New Haven what they need, then he needs to resign. And you all need, or else you all don't bring him back in. But it needs to stop, and it needs to stop now. Thank you.
Vanessa Hurst.
I'm actually speaking on behalf of a number of people on my letters for Mr. Bradley. In a New Haven SBDM principal selection meeting, you said Leah Hardin wasn't a good fit for our school. Those are your words. How can you say that, or how can you say that you know what's best for our community when you know so little about it? Because of the work of former New Haven principal Leah Hardin and her administrative team, we had a 75% reduction in behavior incidences from 2018 to 19 and 2019 to 20, and this is adjusted for the COVID shutdown. We had 65% reduction in suspensions. Our former school administration worked with our community to integrate a community service project for middle school students. They created unique learning opportunities to expose students to areas that may become their passions, such as graphic design, bucket drumming, drama, keyboarding, financial literacy, and coding. Our school took biannual school-wide field trips to expand the exposure of students who may never get such experiences. They created learning opportunities for staff with a poverty simulation and trauma-informed training to better equip them to support their students and families. They created Club Connection and focused on authentic play for primary students to have hands-on learning experiences. They received 2 grants from Advanced Kentucky to implement coding and a STEM-focused race car build into their curriculum. They implemented a research-based social-emotional learning curriculum daily that united students and broke down barriers. Former New Haven leadership celebrated for the first time in our school's history academic achievements by hosting honors breakfast. Together with teachers, they worked diligently to identify deficits and bridge learning gaps with a school-wide intervention plan that everyone was a part of. At the end of the year, former New Haven school leaders celebrated students with an awards program that honored different strengths and abilities. During that time, our school also experienced the tragic deaths of 2 students and a staff member.
Despite these traumatic experiences, under the compassionate leadership of Ms. Hardin and her team, our community pulled together and rallied around our grieving families, students, and staff members. It was clear that the students' best interest was always first. At the end of their tenure at New Haven, they were successful in instilling pride in our students and staff in a building long past its prime. We were united within the very special community of New Haven, and we had opportunities you all are saying we now lack. New Haven parents, wake up. The opportunities they're saying we don't have, we're all there before, and can be again, without taking the heart and soul out of our community.
Jessica Ballard.
My name is Jessica Ballard, and I live in Cox's Creek. My kids go to Bloomfield Middle and Cox's Creek Elementary. Both schools have been wonderful. The principals there are wonderful. So just let you all know, they're great. But what I'm here to discuss today is just information, basically, the need for more of it. So when significant change is being considered in affecting our community, families, and children, there is an expectation that decisions will be made based on research and data-driven metrics. On May 5th, I put in an open records request. I requested the financial impact assessment and projected staffing ratios associated to the merger. Local planning committee meeting minutes regarding to the merger. Economic impact assessment of communities affected. Logistics plan, including an estimated increase in traffic that would be expected based on the merger. Estimated change in percentage of the student population that were able to participate in activities, band, leadership opportunities. All of that information, the result was no records that are responsive to your request. That information did not exist, basically is what I'm assuming that means. That doesn't mean that it can't. I'm asking you all to ask those questions. Ask for that information. Make sure that this is going to be financially viable. Make sure that we're going to have a population to actually support a school, and make sure that it's not going to have a negative impact on the communities that have the school now, or the communities that would be getting a larger school population. Adding risk is not a good idea. Other questions that I have, over the last few weeks, the large number of high school students participating in the work-based learning program has been highlighted. On the surface, that looks great. However, many students are going to work in retail, such as Walmart and Kroger, or fast food, such as Taco Bell and KFC. As a parent, I would not allow my kid to go there instead of school. They can work there after school hours. Just like we did. No, I understand change is important, and we should change as it's needed. But I don't think sending a child into a fast food restaurant instead of teaching them in a school is appropriate. So I presented some data at the community meetings. I actually sent it to Mr. Bradley, but I want to make sure that I say it here as well. When reviewing the school rankings for Kentucky schools, including all schools that have no school grades 6 through 8, over half, I put them into different categories. Of those that are the middle to high school range, over half of those are in the lowest 25% in test rankings. I have other statistics in regard to the safety numbers because I did the same analysis looking at the data that is available on school report cards. So if you want that information, I'll be happy to supply. 5 of the name for me.
Suzanne Thornton.
Okay. Stephanie Smith.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Smith, and I live in Cox's Creek. I've got kids that go to Cox's Creek Elementary and Bloomfield Middle School. I'd like to reiterate a lot of the statements that this half of the room has been making. I agree with everything they're saying, so I'll stick to my points. Ms. Bowen, you asked me at the Foster Heights meeting, will I deny your child the opportunities that are proposed in this merger because I don't want my child to take part in them? And like I told you before, no. I want Boston, I want New Haven to have all of these opportunities that have been proposed in this merger, but not at the expense of the schools that will lose. I strongly urge you and all the board members to research into these opportunities. As it was presented tonight, 500 students have requested to participate in the collabs. How many of those students actually get to participate? Because it's been relayed to me that the arts collab alone only takes 30 students for the whole district. 30. So 500 have applied to 6 different collabs. How many of them get to partake? I know the aerospace is not going to take very many. So think about how many students are actually getting to take advantage of these opportunities. So please, look in those numbers and figure out how this benefits the whole. Is it true that the district is paying these collabs so that our students can go and learn there? Anybody? Because I've been told by board members that they are getting paid. So essentially, we are paying community members to teach our children while they go out to these collabs, and we're paying the teachers to chaperone them while they're there. So explain to me why that makes any sense. These community members are not teachers. They have teachers going with them just to make sure that the kids are behaving while they're being taught by someone in the community. Lastly, it was presented up here tonight. I thought it was very telling that we have allocated money for all the schools for next year except for Bloomfield Middle School. So apparently we're already writing Bloomfield Middle School off for any type of renovations. OKH is getting money to renovate their library. What type of renovations are being done to that? May I ask? Do any of the board members know? Because it was just relayed to me tonight by a teacher that they are removing all the books and turning it into a STEM lab. How is that revitalizing our library? Thank you. Nicole Milburn.
Hello, everybody. I'm Nicole. I live in Bloomfield. What is this? Oh, I'm like, what? Okay, I live in Bloomfield. I have 3 children in the school system. Just so you all know, I'm the one that said that we would have to agree to disagree because that's common ground. One of my issues that has not been really brought up is the health collab. So, doing my own research, my daughter was so excited about being in this health collab. Ready for it, that's where she wants to go when she grows up, only to find out that it does not meet the state requirements. So, we're going to put our children into this health collab. They're going to envision that they're going to get credit for it, it's going to be able to go to college with them, when in reality it's not. It's going to take up half of the day, so for 4 hours my daughter would be in this health collab, then she would have to do her core classes. So the part that I'm not comprehending is, why would we put children in a health collab that's not even going to benefit them in the long run? Another thing that I'm very upset about is they're making the children think that it's legit. They're going to get credits for it. They're going to whatever. Another thing that I'm really done with is, Mr. Bradley, yes, we are going to agree to disagree, but you have no idea where we are coming from as parents because you're not one. And I don't mean that to be in any disrespect, but nobody understands where we stand unless you have stood in our shoes. As far as shame, yes, absolutely. Another issue is you want your name on this. This is to me, on the outside looking in, it's like, look what I did. Look what I can do. Let's put my name on this brand new school, because why not? That way everybody can look, I did that. I'm over it. And I can promise you that if this merger goes through, my children will no longer be a part of Nelson County school system. I'm over it. I'm not letting you guinea pig my children just to see how far you can take it. My 7-year-old, I will homeschool them before I let this happen. It's my job to protect my children. It's my job to stand up and say what's wrong. And if I have to be against our superintendent and our board members, that's fine. That's my job as a parent, is to make sure my children are safe day in and day out. And I don't feel that at the moment. Thank you.
So I'm having a little trouble reading this next name, so I apologize if I mess this up. Is it Aretha Schlack?
Anita Shane.
Anita Shane.
Everything I have thought has been said tonight, and I appreciate the other parents saying.
Josh Simpson.
I'm Josh Simpson. I live over in Chaplin. I have a child in kindergarten and another one getting ready in a couple of years to be in the school system. This is no longer about the merger for me. Mr. Bradley, you were hired because of Anthony Orr's just lack of respect for teachers. The massive turnover, board members, I ask you to remember why Anthony Orr was let go. Disrespect, high teacher turnover, and the numbers have already been proven. Mr. Dixon, you're over New Haven, right? Do you know how many teachers are gone last school year in 2020 out of the 22 teachers of New Haven? That's embarrassing. 10. You know how many positions are posted on the school website right now for New Haven? 5. New Haven is being torn to shreds. They've been that way for about 20 years, and people in New Haven, I apologize if this committee has done that to you. But the more I research, I went to the Bloomfield meeting and I asked just some basic concerns. And I get a phone call from a teacher I used to work with, because I used to work for Nelson County School Systems. And the pure giddiness that someone would get up with an education background and just say some tough questions. And I'm just bringing out my concerns. I'm not against opportunity. I love the idea of work-based learning, but I'm concerned about how it's being implemented. But when I see this turnover rate, 31% of our teachers in 2020 gone. There's over 20 teachers positions already on the school website. I was just informed that we have already lost a 22-year veteran to go to a different school district from New Haven. That's not acceptable, sir. Board members, that's not acceptable. We talk about funds for Bloomfield. I believe it was Bloomfield that was mentioned has a leaky roof for the past 2 or 3 years. Why are we exposing our children right now to all the moisture and mold when we have the funds to fix it? Because according to the state, No money's been spent on maintenance, has it? For 3 years. That's my concern. I'm asking for answers. I'm asking y'all to change this environment. Every teacher I used to work with tells me I'm scared to speak. I'm not allowed to mention what my opinion is, or they will put me somewhere I don't like. They will remove my position. Disturbing reports all around. It's not about the merger anymore. It's about the inconsistencies that I'm seeing as I'm more research I do. Thank you.
Shauna Broyles.
I've done a lot of research, more than I care to admit. The first junior high was created back in the early 1900s.
Yeah, you may want to step forward. There you go.
The first junior high was created back in the early 1900s, breaking out from the traditional K-8 schools. Over 100 years of tradition, and a lot has changed in 100 years. Our children grow up so much faster now. It's a product of our environment that they do. An R-rated movie today, an R-rated movie in the 80s, like The Terminator, would be PG-13 today if it was put out today, like the Avengers movie and the Iron Man movies. Kids are not the same adolescents they were when they were our age. We have kids who have built a freaking plane and then flew it. We're able to provide more opportunities and more hands-on experiences that has your child's name on it, if this will allow us to do so. Let's remove the glass ceiling from our kids. And I'll be the first to admit, I don't always know what's best for my kids. When she's sick, I take her to the doctor. When she needs braces, I take her to Dr. Hal Madeline. When she has any unique issues, I take her to specialists. There are specialists who are devoted in their field, and I definitely would not tell a doctor how to do surgery or put braces on her child because I have no idea how to do that. So I support our school board with their expertise and their job to do so. And I have a question for the parents against the merger of the middle school and high school and threatening to pull their children out because they don't want sixth graders in the same building with the high school. Do they currently ride the bus when they're all together? No.
Mike Thornsberry.
Short.
Everything's already been answered for me. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Any other guest comments before we close it? Okay. Great. Then I need a motion to adjourn regular session. Very motion. Full and second.